Well, if you thought rumors of a 600-watt power supply, graphics card coming from Nvidia, I hope you're excited to hear that we might also be seeing a 900-watt variant. Now, this one seems less sure whether this one will actually launch, but it does seem to be actually being tested. Now, where is this information coming from? Because when I first saw this headline, 900 watts, okay, is some just random person tweeting this and it's getting reported as a rumor on websites like this? Well, it is a random tweet, but okay, random's the wrong word for it. This is from Kopite 7 Kimi. And Kopite has I'm probably mispronouncing that, by the way, whatever. Anyway, the point is, they have a good track record of having accurate inside information of graphics card launches. Over and over and over again, I have tracked this stuff for a long time now. They usually have good info. But they are clear that this might not actually come out in a product, okay? So here's the actual tweet. In fact, there's another full-fat AD102 SKU. Now, if you're not sure what the AD102 means, so AD is just standing for our next generation of graphics chips coming out. We'll expect them to be the RTX 4000 series. And 102 would be what we would expect to be the highest end SKU. The lower end models would be like 103, 104, right? It gets cut down from there. Anyway, we're seeing a 900 watt TGP, 48 gigabytes of 24 gigabit per second GDDR6X, 2x16 power pin and higher frequency. But no one knows whether it will become an actual product. That's the key. And because the test board of AD102 has more than two 16-pin connectors, so everything's possible. Anyway, so, I mean, one possibility here is Nvidia is testing this as maybe they're going to bring back the Titan branding. So maybe they have a 4090, maybe even a 4090 Ti. Is there also going to be some just insane Titan kind of card like this? I don't know. But along with this, Kopite has some other info, and we have lots of other news stories today, so it wasn't just this. But we're also seeing that the XX90, so probably the 4090, we would be expecting to be an AD102 300. So the 300 there probably being a slightly cut down compared to the absolute full version AD102, which is what we're seeing here. And that one being 24 gigabytes, 21 gigabits per second, and 600 watts. And that's in line with, things we'd been seeing before. So I would still expect that to be our 4090. And again, this, if it does exist, this could just be being tested and never launch, being more like a Titan or 90 Ti at least model. Or maybe it's some kind of professional card. I don't know, man. Anyway, some more info here. The 4080 being the AD103 chip. Now that's interesting to me because the AD103. If you don't understand this numbering, so again, the 3080 was on the 102 version of that die, meaning it needed to be that high end and that higher end chip, where it's looking like, if Kopite is correct here, the 4080 will be down to the 103 chip. So actually one of the steps down in terms of chips, which is interesting. Because I guess what I'm thinking here is usually Nvidia and AMD have a pretty good idea of what each other's graphics cards' power levels are gonna be. And with a lot of rumors, we've been hearing that AMD might actually have the performance advantage, at least in rasterized performance with this next generation coming out. But if that's true, I would be kind of surprised to see the 4080 launch with the AD103 chip and not the 102 chip. Because, for example, NVIDIA had to use the 3080 on the 102 chip to match the performance of a 6800 XT, beat it in things like ray tracing, but, for rasterized performance, just to match it. So to me, this is actually really interesting, if true, but we'll see where that goes. Anyway, it's looking like the 4080 will have 16 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory, so that's very good to see. The 3080 launching with only 10 was not great. The 12 gigabyte model is better, But yeah, launching with 16 gigabytes of memory for that high end of a SKU, I think makes a lot of sense for this generation. And a similar TGP to GA102, so similar power draw level, I guess, then to what we're seeing on the 3080. So if you're seeing these like 900 watt power and 600 watt power, again, my opinion on that is if the absolute Halo products want to chase diminishing returns by like allowing crazy high amounts of power and people want to chase world record overclocks, that's fine with me as long as they keep the normal high-end cards at least at a somewhat reasonable power level, and then the mid-range and low ends also at a somewhat reasonable power level. And the information on that looks to be RTX 4070 using the AD104 chip, so already jumping down another chip then again. So it looks like they're just going, 102, for the 90 class or Titan or above or whatever, and then 103, 102 for the 4070, and then AD104 chip with 12 gigabytes for the 4070. So that's good news as well, because our 3070 class card only having 8 gigabytes was a big drawback. A lot of people worried buying a 3070 Ti. It's a fast card, but it only has the 8 gigabytes. If you're trying to use it at 4K or even in the future at 1440p, 12 gigabytes would give a lot more headroom at 1440p and even 4K. So that would be good to see. And that's GDDR6, not 6X, 300 watts. So 300 watts, I'm pretty sure, is more than the 3070. So that does seem to be a power increase here. This is that both of these have not started testing yet, but will soon. So if you look at all that info, Video Cards kind of has it stacked up here, and I put all my sources in the description. Interesting stuff, but we also have some more. We're also seeing that the NVIDIA Ada Lovelace GPUs could have a node advantage over AMD RDNA 3 by using TSMC's 4N process, which is not what a lot of the early rumors were suggesting. And again, with the current generation of RDNA 2 versus NVIDIA's Ampere architecture, Ampere has been on Samsung's 8 nanometer process, while AMD has been on TSMC's 7 nanometer process. So we were expecting NVIDIA to be going with the 5 nanometer process, but if Moore's Law is dead here, is correct, which is, I believe, where I'm getting this from WCCF Tech, but it looks to be originally coming from this tweet here, from Moore's Law is dead. He's saying that Lovelace is indeed 4 nanometer, and that would be extremely interesting. Because that would be an advantage if it's true that AMD is using a mix of TSMC 5 nanometer and 6 nanometer. And so it'd be very interesting to see what that does to performance and power efficiency differences and things like that. And if we could see a swing from what we actually saw on the current generation here. But we'll see where that goes. A little bit more info also, I think, was mentioned here, and it's here as well from Copite, is that we're looking like, it had been rumored that these new GPUs might feature PCIe Gen 5 actual connection to the motherboard, but it's looking like all of the most reliable leakers are saying PCIe Gen 4 now on these. Anyway, a little bit more news. How about NVIDIA kind of throwing some shade at, probably AMD and maybe Intel as well. They just mentioned their competitors. Drivers. So NVIDIA was bragging about how well they test their drivers, the amount of systems that they have testing it at all times, running tons of tests, that every one of their launches is passing WHQL certification, which does require passing 1,300 rigorous tests. And they mentioned that we don't release subpar beta drivers with minimal testing, let alone multiple conflicting beta drivers forked from different development branches that support different games and products, which confuses customers. They're very clearly talking about AMD here, because it is true that AMD's driver updates are often first released as a beta driver and then only later receive WHQL certification. And they do have multiple forks. So it is true. I mean, now, personally, I didn't have a lot of issues running my 6800 XT for a long time with driver issues, and I think they have been getting better. But NVIDIA definitely throwing some shade at the competition here with that one. Does that mean they're getting nervous? Are they scared? Are you scared, NVIDIA? No. Honestly, guys, I'm just happy to see competition in the space. I'm happy to see Intel getting in here. I think the more competition we see in the GPU space, the better for the consumer. Now, speaking of AMD driver updates, we're getting one, well, we got one yesterday as of my time of filming, and it looks like the main thing here is getting support for Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. As well as fixing some issues here, still some known issues and all of that. And NVIDIA also launching a graphics update which optimizes for Dune Spice Wars, JX3, and more. And that's where they also included their little dig at AMD drivers. Some of the other main points here is Chernobylite ray tracing upgrade, JX3 Online DLSS upgrade, also adding the Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt support and some optimized settings available if you use those for a number of games here. And adding some very G-Sync compatible display support. Now, on Intel news, a few days ago, we saw Komachi, who also has had a track record of some correct leaks, leaking out a lineup here for Intel desktop GPUs, which does seem to include some models that have not yet been confirmed by Intel, and weren't in that released info that Intel showed when they launched Arc with their kind of paper launched Arc, but more on that in a second. So they could be including a 310 model, a 350 model, a 380 model, 580, 750, 770, but they're saying that it could have an 8 gigabyte and a 16 gigabyte variant, and then kind of would we be getting a 780 model, which would be interesting to see here. Now, it doesn't look like there's a lot of info about any of that. So I'm not going to dig too far into it, but could be, a really cut down model there on the 310 and possibly a higher end model there. Now, speaking of Intel and its paper launch, currently it's only been pretty much one South Korean model, and if you're outside of South Korea, you can't really even get a laptop with these, despite the fact that Intel launched them a month ago. But now we're at least seeing listed a couple of models. We're seeing an Asus and an HP 2-in-1 laptop featuring an Arc A370M. They're listed now, but you still can't actually buy them without even, I think you don't even see a expected date. It just says coming soon. So I would guess sometime in May, we might actually start getting some Intel Arc mobile laptop available outside of South Korea. A little bit of AMD Ryzen 7000 news. They will only support DDR5 memory. A lot of people expected this, but this does seem to be confirmed now. And then we'll be seeing some Expo memory profile technology, allowing looks like some really interesting memory overclocking support and memory speed support on all of this. But the big thing there is I get it, only supporting DDR5. I'm really hoping the price of DDR5, it has been falling, but I really hope it falls to a reasonably competitive price by the time these chips are out, because otherwise that's going to really drive up the price of upgrading to that platform, especially when, Intel's chips are currently supporting the DDR4 or DDR5, depending on which motherboard you buy. Again, hopefully the price comes down in time and that it doesn't end up being an issue. Quick mention, if you're into the Steam Deck competitor type stuff, AyaNeo is announcing an OLED gaming console with a 12-watt AMD Ryzen 5000U APU, and the reason why that's a little disappointing is that the Steam Deck is using RDNA 2 graphics, so this should not actually compete with that in terms of performance, although it does look like a nice small little design here with an OLED screen, so it has some advantages reasons why you might pick it over a Steam Deck. Now, a few last little just game things. I don't really talk a lot about games, usually talk about hardware, but we are seeing Elder Scrolls 6 news, and I'm just interested in that. So, hey, looking like a 2025 to 2026 release target, and some other series remasters are in the work. Are we going to get even more Skyrim? Anyway, also, it looks like the Diablo Immortal, wasn't this the famous, do you guys not own phones? Blizzard announcement a while back about the Diablo coming to mobile. It looks like it's also coming to PC, and the PC system requirements are actually available. I'm not going to bother doing a system requirement video on this because this is a mobile game, guys. The minimum requirements are pretty low. And no, this is not the RX 6850 Radeon. This is the HD 6850 Radeon. So very different thing. We're even talking Intel HD graphics 530 for the minimums. And then for recommended specs, we're seeing an RX 470 and GTX 770. And they're not even being too specific on the processors, but any kind of i3 or an FX 8100, 4 gigabytes of RAM, you should be okay. And that is even targeting, they're saying you need at least 1080p to run it, I guess is what they're saying there. Anyway, also a little bit of console news. PS5 did get its variable refresh rate update for certain games. I think more are on the way, but they're getting it for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Devil May Cry 5, Resident Evil Village, Spider-Man Remastered, and Miles Morales. So nice to see them actually getting some variable refresh rate support. And I've got to get ready for work, so I'm going to end this video. Although I thought I had one more article here with which was confirming Uncharted for PC. I forgot to pull up the article. Anyway, Uncharted for PC, I believe, did get a release date leaked or something for next month, I believe. Not next month. I think it's coming in June. I forgot to pull up the article. Whatever, Google it or something. Pretty sure we're actually getting Uncharted on PC. Have an excellent day.